I'm here with Daniel this morning, and we're talking this morning about the next section that we're in, which if you saw the message this weekend, we didn't dive into this section. We kind of jumped ahead in the message because of where we're going and some opportunities we have to talk about discipleship as that adventure of loving Christ, of loving God. So we began that conversation this weekend. So there's a little bit back a chapter into chapter, I don't know the number here. Let's see what number it was. Chapter 8. That's our readings this week. And the readings are, I'm my beloved and my beloved is mine. And when we talk about this section, this is one of those sections too where you've heard me say, just like I said last week, when you think about that relationship of mother and child or father and daughter, and sometimes that relationship can be a little bit raw, and it might be a section that right now really doesn't just resonate with you. So feel free to skip that section. This is another one. Feel free to skip this section. I like how Pastor Rasa writes about it on page 107. Whether you've been married or never been married, or your marriage was a roller coaster or a train wreck or a celebration or some combination of all of these, I want you to know that you don't have to carry your personal baggage with you into this chapter in delight. And I don't have to carry mine. So you have permission not to think about your marriage or your baggage as you go through this chapter. This image of a bride walking down the aisle to meet her groom still holds something important for your life of faith. That moment of joy and intimacy and promise and anticipation and, yes, delight, wrapped up with the best experiences of being bride and groom, husband and wife, all the best of who we are and what we experience in a window into God's heart for us. Depending on the week you are having, it might be hard to relate to that image. You can come back to this chapter later if the topic is a little too sensitive. But what I want you to know is that brokenness of your experience cannot diminish what this image of mutual delight means for you in your relationship with God, who is unashamedly head over heels in love with you. So basically what we just gave you permission to do was to stop watching. I mean, seriously, if that's something that's too raw for you right now, that's okay. Come back to this some other time or another kind of pace in your life where it might speak a little bit better to you. And as we said, some of these images and some of these really images and descriptions of delight, some are going to resonate with you and some are going to kind of maybe not hit where you're at right now in your walk. And that's okay. That's the beauty of the scriptures, is that we see all of these different types of images trying to describe a heavenly reality with earthly terms. Even if you think about the parables of Jesus, he does that right all the time, and they all fall a little bit short. And, all the images fall short to the perfection that there is in the love that God has for us in Christ Jesus. But we can use them to better paint a picture and understanding of who we are in light of that love of God in Christ Jesus. So this morning we're going to talk a little bit about what's a love poem doing in my Bible, and I've been already chatting too much. So Daniel, anything resonating for you as you read this section, as you kind of worked a little bit through it, or just thought about these images?
Well, it just kind of just that first part, even just things that he writes, and you kind of like, I always kind of wondered about this, but really oh yeah, I remember being in middle school. I had the opportunity to go to St. Paul when we sat at the school, and I remember reading something in the song or something, just some of them, I'm like, this, what in the world are we reading? Why are we reading anything about some woman's teeth being white like sheep? And what is going on? And he says here, some of it's NC-17, and actually in Hebrew, the Jews, they weren't supposed to read this until they're in their 30s.
Right.
This was ooh, okay, this is intimate here. And it said, for some faithful readers throughout history, wanting Song of Solomon to say something about Jesus has led them to think it can't be saying anything about intimate, sensual love and desire. So just thinking about when I was younger, reading just passages, we were reading, the Song of Solomon. And thinking, there's no way this isn't actually saying this. There's got to be something else that we're
trying to downplay.
Yeah, I'm no, that's not.
Right,
that's middle school boy also.
Right.
It's no, there's something different. He's talking about sheep. They're really talking about something else.
Yeah.
But really thinking no, and there is a reason that it is canon in our scriptures.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's interesting, and I'm with you there, because we skip over it because our framework, and I think part of it is we mess this up so big.
Yeah.
You know, in our hypersexualized culture, you know, any conversation about sexualization or not even sexualization, intimacy in this kind of way, we automatically go to the ways we've corrupted it and the ways we messed it up. And so all of a sudden it becomes a offhands thing. And then what we miss is this image, not just of the husband and wife image, but this image of Christ and the church as we get to the New Testament. You know, this image, you know, why does he use this image? The writers of the New Testament, Christ in his church, as the bride, you know, loves, or as the bridegroom gives up his life for this bride, you know, all these images, you know, it's almost like we fall short of those because we don't want to go all the way. Like, kind of, what does that mean? And, you know, I think there was a quote too. He said, you know, don't push the image too far, but do push it far enough. The Spirit intends for you to experience and understand God's love for you and your love for God through the lens of an intimate, mutual, playful, intense, passionate, exciting love relationship between an adoring bride and her adoring groom. Like, it is an image that you can go with and you can go there with. What other kind of...
Well, I'm just talking about, you know, I think, well, obviously it's the introduction to this, but going back to just my beautiful wife, and he talks about watching his wife, you know, come down the aisle. And I mean, like yesterday, you know, imagine Celia coming down the aisle to me. Actually, I was like, why is it taking so long for those doors to open?
There you go.
Found out later, like right before she's supposed to walk down, her dad like started sobbing. Like that was like his moment. Like, oh no. So I was like, I hope she still wants to marry me, but once that door opened, I was like, oh my goodness. I cannot remember anything the pastor said.
Right.
All I remember is looking at my beautiful bride, and I was just lost.
Right.
Totally lost in that love and, you know, just desire to be with her. And then reading now into talking about on page 110, you know, it talks about, you know, Jesus goes back to these type of rhetorics and, you know, being the bridegroom and that desire for that one person. Like it says 109, we experience that love relationship together as a church. We are the bride of Christ, but also it invites us to receive this promise personally.
Right. And
really, it is a personal thing. King David expressed in, you know, the psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me, he restores me, he comforts me. So I'll always think about, like, you know, we are the bride as the church.
Right.
But they're still so personal with us. Like, he chooses us. We are still the one that he goes after and leaves the 99. Yeah. It's just so much more personal when you think about it in those...
It's the both and.
Yes.
It's the both and. I think he said it later, it was a good summary. You know, like, you are saved as an individual, and you are saved into community. Grace upon grace, delight, and even more delight. Song of Solomon was written for you as an individual and for us as the church. You know, so there's that individual and us. There's that collectiveness, and there's this both and, again, into this kind of tension, into this kind of, it's okay to see both of those images. They're not mutually exclusive. You can see them together. And I was just thinking, you know, Song of Solomon so often for us as a closed book. I put over here too, I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen. This is my commentary on the Song of Solomon from the Concordia Commentary series written by Dr. Mitchell. And this is the biggest commentary in the series on the book of Song of Solomon. I know what you're thinking. Now, some of them, the books are multiple series or multiple books for one book, like especially the Gospels. But this is 1,300 pages just on the Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. And we're going to look at it actually. You know, we didn't talk about it this weekend in worship or in the sermon series. We're not going to spend too much time or really any time in it. But we're going to come back to this kind of image later sometime, because there's also some other really good resources. Heidi Gaiman has a great Bible study on Song of Songs, and how do we kind of wrestle with this? And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to pull it out of this series and do it some other time, because the image is helpful and it's good, but I want to kind of keep moving us forward too in what we're doing in here. But so still read the book. If you skip this week, you're good, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. We'll talk a little bit on devotions and stuff like that. Maybe you'll talk about it in your small group in person or online, because there's some good things to kind of really think through. And in this area where we so easily experience brokenness, that we can't throw the brokenness out completely without at least reclaiming some of that image that God gives to us in His Word of this bride and bridegroom and what that really looks like in its fullness, in its beautiful sense. Dan, any thoughts this morning as we dig into this section today?
I just like, you know, he bolded it for a reason on page 111. And it's like the main thing. It says, your personal God values you personally. I think it's so easy to forget. Like, in all the people in the world, we are the church, we are the body. He still sees us. He still desires us.
Yeah.
You personally. It's not just it is a whole big thing. But it's a personal thing.
You have a personal worth and a value, which,
Yes.
That's something I think probably we recognize the collective value. Christ died for the church, right? We recognize that. But I would say probably most of us wrestle more with the personal, the intimate, one-on-one thing, because we know ourselves.
More miserable sinners.
Right. We know ourselves so well. And so I think maybe this week hopefully will teach us just how much God desires to delight in you as an individual. It seems too good to be true, but it isn't. It isn't. So, but that's where we got today. Hopefully this will be helpful for you this week. And like I said, if it's too close to you, too raw of an area, go ahead and skip it. No skin off the back. We'll be glad to join you in the next section as well. So hopefully you'll in the reading guide. If you didn't get a book yet, I want to mention this too. We just got in on Friday another shipment of books. So we have books available here at the office, here during worship. Pick one up. We're glad to get one of these in your hands so that you can daily be in the readings with us. And you can always find out more too. Let me put up that website that we have too as well. Let's get it on there. All right, there it is. stpaultexas.com/delight. That's all there as well. So if you want to jump in on any of those resources, you can pick them up there as well. We'd be glad to put a book in your hand, or the audiobook, or the sermons and the series and everything else. Be right there, one-stop shopping for you. So God's blessing on your journey of delight this week. May you always know that you are